Welcome to the official opening of the Joan and Irwin Jacobs Center for STEAM Education. My pleasure to introduce Dr. Jacobs, Jeffrey Jacobs, Annie Jacobs, Jager Jacobs. We have Senator Warren's office represented, Representative Cabral, Representative Schmidt, members of the City Council, Representative from Qualcomm, and first, members of the Board of Trustees, both past and present, our donors, our faculty, some retired faculty, our students, our friends, our family, especially my youngest granddaughter, who's in the carriage back there. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here today. I have a few citations to read, and then I'm going to turn it over to Representative Cabral for his citation. And then we have one of our most prestigious students who will be presenting her remarks on behalf of the children, the students, and herself. But first of all, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Joan and Irwin Jacobs STEAM Center and Qualcomm Think-A-Bit Lab. On behalf of the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I am pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation in recognition of your devotion and generosity to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in establishing the second Qualcomm Think-A-Bit Lab on the East Coast of the United States in New Bedford as part of the Joan and Irwin Jacobs Center for STEAM Education. We acknowledge the immense benefit this lab will bring to our Bay State by inspiring tomorrow's workforce to tackle global challenges through new technology, innovation, creativity, and collaboration. We sincerely appreciate the outstanding work you and your team have done over the years towards liberating intellect and unlocking imagination as key to global prosperity and a world of opportunity for all. This 22nd day of May in the year 2023, Maura T. Healey, Governor, Kimberly Driscoll, Lieutenant Governor. From the Massachusetts State Senate, an official citation, be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Joan and Irwin Jacobs in recognition of your tireless pursuit of educational advancement for New Bedford children and your generous support and advocacy for the Global Learning Charter School. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be only signed by the President of the Senate and attested to and copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate, President of the Senate Karen E. Spilka, Clerk of the Senate Michael D. Hurley, offered by State Senator Mark C. Montigny on May 22nd, 2023. I have a certificate of special recognition presented on May 22nd, 2023 for the Global Charter Learning Public School in recognition and honor of your grand opening, Michael Sullivan, CEO, Rick Kidder, COO of One South Coast Chamber. And I thank you. Representative Cabral.
Well, good morning. Welcome, everyone. It's certainly a wonderful day here in New Bedford. I want to thank a special thank you to Dr. Jacobs and his wife and his family, someone who was born and raised in New Bedford, never forgot his roots, never forgot this wonderful city that we call home, and keeps giving back to the city. That's wonderful. I mean, his generosity has done tremendous work for us here in New Bedford, not only the opening of this new center, but also other investments that Dr. Jacobs has done with, in particular, primarily all around education and culture. So that's wonderful. Our kids need this kind of involvement and this kind of investment, and we are extremely appreciative to Dr. Jacobs and his wife and his family for keep coming back to New Bedford and spread a little bit of goodwill and investment for all of us. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dr. Jacobs. And I want to congratulate everyone who was involved also in the Global Learning Charter Public Schools, in particular Steve. I think this was one of his dreams, and here we are. He was able to accomplish it. It talks about tenacity, involvement, caring. That's how these things get done. And today it's really about, for me, it's about the families in New Bedford. It's about the kids in New Bedford. The opportunities that they have and will have in order for them to set them on a path to success. And then, hopefully, some of them will come back and give back like Dr. Jacobs. And that's the idea. So with me, Representative Paul Schmidt as well. He's a good friend and a good supporter of things in New Bedford, because he also represents a little piece of New Bedford. But I do bring a citation as well, and I'm going to read it. So here it is from the House of Representatives in Massachusetts. It says, "Be it known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Global Learning Charter Public School in recognition of the opening of the Joan and Irwin Jacobs Center for STEAM Education and the educational opportunities they will bring to our community. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope of future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors, given this 22nd day of May 2023 at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, by the Speaker of the House, Ronald Mariano, and offered by myself, Tony Cabral, and Representative Paul Schmidt." Thank you. I'll leave it here.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to watch the benefits of education on our students. One of our students has had the opportunity to watch this renovation project from probably beginning to end. There's actually some pictures of her on the roof of this building when they were installing the HVAC system. And we said, "Do you want to go on the roof?" And she went, of course, with her hard hat. And to know that this young lady's goal in life now is to become an architect, what better way to learn than to be part of a process, be part of a project from start to finish. And this young lady is going to be attending the online program this summer with the Boston Architectural School in furthering her goal of that one day becoming an architect. And maybe when it comes down to future, she can architect that building. In the meantime, I am so proud to present our 9th grade future architect, Jaslyn Arita Hernandez.
Thank you. Good morning. I am honored to be speaking to you today on behalf of the entire GLCPS student life. I know that many people have had their hearts and mind in this project for a very long time. Thank you to all of the donors, the planners, and the builders who have worked tirelessly to create this space for students, teachers, and our community. We are incredibly grateful. Dr. Jacobs, I share your belief in the importance of a STEAM education. When I was a little girl, Growing up in Honduras, I love to draw, especially houses. When my family moved to the U.S., I would gaze at the tall buildings standing so high in the sky. I had never seen anything quite like it before in my life. I continued my drawings, and after giving a set of blocks, I would spend hours creating buildings as tall as possible. I remember seeing a woman on TV explaining how the tallest buildings were built in such a way to sustain high winds, and then I began thinking more and more of becoming an architect. I was still just a little girl at the time, a child who spoke only Spanish. My dad tells me that I would cry and beg my parents to let me stay home from school because I could not speak English. My parents gently and firmly insisted that I go to school. They knew that an education would lead me to a bright future. They knew that I would learn to speak English at school. They were right on both counts. We are very fortunate to be able to learn in this new building, the Joan and Irwin Jacobs Center of STEAM Education. It isn't just the building itself, but all of the new lab and equipment and hands-on machines, such as the Glowforge and Cricut in the Qualcomm Think-A-Bit lab, and the kiln in the art room. There is also a chemistry lab and a biology lab. Recently, in biology class, we conducted an experiment using Vineyard equipment to measure the CO2 and the O2 levels on cellular respiration nodes to see how the human body's respiratory system works. And when you step into the College and Career Center, well, it feels like you are already in college. This was already a great school, but the new STEAM Center expands our opportunities to learn and grow. I admire the man and woman who turned an old, non-functioning building into a space for us to spread our wings and dreams of a brighter future. Every day when I walk through the entryway of our main campus, I see the words of Dr. Jacobs on a banner. Innovation isn't just for engineers. His words inspire us to imagine the possibilities that lie within us and before us. I reflect on those words quite a bit and have come to realize that innovation is the key to making the world a better place. Thank you.
There's United States representative, your future representative right there. We would be here well into the night by thanking everyone that made this building, this dream come true. The journey to locate an additional facility began 5 years ago when the downtown building that housed the original Jacobs Center was sold. Suddenly, the main building had to house 500 students and absorb the entire high school program. Sometimes the answer is right under your nose, or in this case, 100 feet away. Steve Furtado Jr., our director of business, kept saying to me, "What about the convent?" And I would go, "What about it?" And so we began to think about the convent, and we began to have discussions with the Florida Diocese and Paul Brooks, the director of facilities of the diocese, on leasing the convent. An agreement was reached for a 30-year lease, so we're not going anywhere. And we hired the architectural firm of Arrow Street of Boston, and from there meetings took place with our teachers in designing the building to meet our programs. We then hired construction and monitoring services to be our clerk of the works for this project. The final step was hiring the general contractor, J.J. Cardosi of Riverside, Rhode Island. So Larry Spang, Molly Rivero from Arrow Street, along with Donald, who would zoom in on graphics, Neil Joyce from CMS, Cole Whitehead from JJ Cardosi, Steve Jr., Amy Bissonette, and myself came together to be the STEAM team. The one concern from the beginning was the financing of the $11 million project. As many of you know, Massachusetts charter schools do not qualify for reimbursement for building projects. Therefore, we had to raise every penny on our own. Dr. and Mrs. Jacobs and I have had several meetings over the years regarding our search for a new facility. Throughout those meetings, they encouraged us to keep them informed of our searches. Once we identified the convent and the steps we were taking to seek donations, my heart skipped a beat that on August 15, 2020, when I received an email from the Jacobs stating that they were supporting the project in a most generous way. Their donation, along with Bay Coast Bank, Bristol County Savings, the Acushnet Foundation, the Mifflin Memorial Fund, Qualcomm, John and Nancy LePan, Tremblay Bus Company, our Board of Trustees, our anonymous donors, and so many others. As you can see on our donor wall, if it wasn't for them, we would not be here today. All in all, we raised over $8 million, and we are financing the remaining $2.3 million with Bay Coast Bank. We want to thank Poyon Signs for the most beautiful graphics, and Donald for designing the graphics in the building. And when you get to tour the building later on this morning, you will see how beautiful they are. In addition, our thanks include the City of New Bedford for their guidance throughout the project. The STEAM Center is for our students and our community in building a future that identifies the education necessary to be successful in the coming decades. To reach out to the partners that we have utilized over the years, Bristol Community College, UMass Dartmouth, in making this a fully operational community center for all to learn and to grow. Your support and your trust continues to allow us to move forward in what we do best, because after all, it's all about kids. Thank you. It is now my distinguished pleasure to introduce Dr. Irwin Jacobs.
Thank you very much, Steve. Get that up to a higher height here. Always a pleasure to get back to New Bedford. It's actually been several years since we were here, once to a weather storm that closed the airport, and then of course the COVID epidemic. But it is good to be back again. Unfortunately, my wife Joan is not able to join us at this point because of a little bit of a medical condition. She's doing well, but the travel would just be too much for her. We were, however, able to combine this visit with the graduation of a grandson from George Washington University, and that worked out very well. The graduation was on the Mall, which is, I think, the only university that can use the Mall for graduation. So it was really amazing with the Washington Monument up behind all the students. In any case, education has always been very important to both my wife and myself. We benefited over the years from scholarship and fellowship and state aid to get to our positions of being able to take on more responsibilities. And so we've always looked to be able to help others with their education. And part of that, actually started in San Diego as far as the charter school system, with the recognition of the need for more students studying what was called STEM then, and now STEAM being added, with the arts being covered, and a discussion of a charter school system for San Diego. And an older son, Gary, kind of took and ran with that, Qualcomm providing support. And so a system called High Tech High, which is now, I don't know, 8 or so schools from the elementary through the high school, plus a graduate school. And it worked out very well in the sense that it introduced the idea of project-based learning, where the students would be very much involved with projects that would involve the sciences, humanities, whatever, just a combination of different areas. And it began to thrive and do very, very well. And then luckily there was a interest in having a similar school here in New Bedford. And so that's how we became involved with the global charter public school system here. And it's been fun to watch that move ahead. It started out in the old New Bedford High School building. And when I say old, that feels a little bit of a problem for me because that's where I went to high school. And that worked for a couple of years or so, as I recall, but then needed more space. And so looking for space has always been a major issue with this charter school system. As was noted, we've been following the search for another building, and then when we heard about this possibility, we became quite excited when we began to see some of the architectural drawings of what could be done to really make this into a very useful school building. So that's been very positive. Now, part of that is having a Think a Bit lab, and I'll give you a little bit of history on that. I was a university professor for 13 years, 7 at MIT, 6 at UCSD, before somehow I ended up going into business to show students that in fact a lot of the theory that's taught can have a useful application in the real world. In any case, the first company was called Linkabit, which also has a story that everything has a story I won't try to get into. And we grew that quite rapidly, merged it with a company here called Macom from the Boston area in order to get on the New York Stock Exchange quickly. And then a few years later, I did retire. After, I think it was about 3 months in retirement, decided that wasn't much fun. And with a few others from Linkabit, we formed Qualcomm. And didn't have any business plan in mind, didn't have any particular product in mind, but figured that digital wireless would be an area of interest going forward. And Linkabit and Qualcomm, of course, has now also grown. I told my wife it might get up to 100 people, and I think it's over 40 to 50,000 at this point. So done very well. One of the areas, again, that Qualcomm's always been interested in is education. And they came up with the idea, this was after I had retired, so I was not directly involved, but very supportive. The idea of having a lab space that they could invite school students in, I think mostly initially 6th grade school students, from all around San Diego, and have a half day where employees would be able to tell them about the jobs that they held, and also what they needed to do to prepare for that. But the main thing also was to have a whole variety of different employees that having different jobs within the company to show even a high-tech company needs a very broad range of trained people. And so that was the morning part of the exercise. And then the afternoon, they had all kinds of different parts available to build robots and let the kids put together their own robot. And so it had a kind of a fun aspect to it. The program did so well that it began to expand around the San Diego area and then now cross country. And I'm hoping that, in fact, it does continue to expand because it turns out to be a very useful program. And I'm hope as you get the chance to see the Think of It Lab here, which I assume is on the tour, that you'll get a feeling for the kind of approach that's used. In any case, it's always interesting to see you provide an institution, a company, students with some support, and then stand back a bit and watch how things evolve. And they always evolve well beyond what you originally imagined them to do. Certainly with the cell phone, we imagine a number of things, but it's continued to evolve well beyond that. And we look forward to seeing how this charter school system here and the students here continue to evolve and bring new approaches to STEAM education. Now I'll mention one last, fall down.
Yeah, try that.
Okay, I'll start over. Just one last aspect. One of the things we actually became involved with very early here in New Bedford was providing scholarships for students to go on to a higher education. And we knew New Bedford had a low average income level, and so any support that we might be able to provide would be helpful. So we started that many years ago, and each year we've been able to come and provide and offer the scholarships to the students. So we've missed the last few years because of the weather and then the pandemic. Looking forward to doing that again. But in any case, there are, I think, 4 students from New Bedford High School, one now from vocational, and one from Global Learning Charter School System. So it's been fun to watch how those students make use of their scholarships, go on, and a number of them have come back to settle here in New Bedford and bring back some of what they've learned. So again, you can never tell. You provide some help in some way, and people can take it and run with it. So that's what's always been very satisfying. In any case, we look forward to seeing how this school does progress. I'm sure it's going to continue to do well and hopefully have a major impact on the students who train here and others that learn about the program. Thank you all very much for being here.
And now we're going to invite Dr. Jacobs and his family to come over to our plaza, where we will have the official ribbon cutting to open the Joan and Irwin Jacobs Center for STEAM Education. Welcome us.
I know, we're doing.
Well, that's great. And two of our most recent retired faculty members.
I worked here for the whole 20 years.
Really?
Yep, I just retired in June of last year.
Congratulations.
You know, but I love it here. It's
I
a great
Two of
school.
my favorite teachers.
Wonderful for, for the kids, the small school setting kid, like the girl that talked, Jaslyn, right? Jaslyn, the one that spoke?
Yes.
She really got lost in a big school. She's just, because she's so quiet but so thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, yes.
You know?
Thank you for what you do.
Yep.
Here, I have an entire room with all my supplies at my ready. So when I want to create a nice lab and do something for the students, I go in there, I collect my needed materials, and present it to them. There's no searching, there's no trying to find out what fits and what doesn't. So it's nice, neatly organized, and the students have, as you can see, a larger of a space to work from. Whereas before, they pretty much just had this little section of the table, and that's all they had available. But now they have countertops, they have multiple sinks. It's really frustrating in the other place when another room I had where there was one sink available for 20-something kids. So it was line up and wash your hands after the lab, and like 20 minutes later, from one end to the other, having students finish up their cleanup process. So now it's nice and quick. They have their personal spaces, and everything's nice and organized.
How many kids would be in the class at one time?
On average, I have about 19 to 23 students, somewhere in that range. And like I said, it's a lot easier to manage that when I have things more organized.
How far do you teach? What's the furthest along subject you teach in biology these days?
As far as topics in biology,
Topics.
I think the one that takes me the longest is my genetics unit. So we go from macro to micro, or we go from micro to macro. The idea is we go from small to large, or large to small, and go from a cellular unit up to like the human body and dealing with evolution or ecology. And so we try to get through all those topics and try to cover everything we can for our MCAS. We have all the supplies laid out, and connecting to the other end is chemistry, Dr. Ball's room.
We actually had one of the sisters who used to live here. One of the original sisters came through the building when we toured it. She actually remembered painting these archways originally. So she was happy we kept them.
Oral history.
Yes, yes.
Those are her dreams.
We had our music room in a really small room in the back of the cafeteria prior to this building. So this was a big upgrade for our program. And they just won a gold medal last week at a competition. They won a gold medal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.